Tucker Carlson has destroyed the pro-war Republican Senator Ted Cruz over Iran. It's fair to say that I'm not a political sympathizer of Tucker Carlson at all. I should emphasize that fact. But it is worth just watching this clip from this upcoming interview.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not
okay.
even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay. Oof. Well, indeed. As with Iraq, as with Afghanistan, as with Libya, warmongers are cheering on military interventions in countries they know very little about whatsoever. In each of these cases, these ignorant warmongers predicted devastating success and were often high on their own triumphalism. They were unable to predict the catastrophes that many of us predicted. It reminds me of the words of the US diplomat Michael Matrinko. He was in Afghanistan. He was one of the few US officials during the occupation who actually had an understanding of Afghan culture. He said of the CIA operatives who swamped the country after the 2001 invasion, who were unable even to speak the language in the vast majority of cases, I would dismiss all, 99% of them, as amateurs. Tucker Carlson represents a particular strand of the Donald Trump MAGA base who took the promise to end the forever wars seriously. Well, Trump has slapped him down, writing on his Truth Social platform. Somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all in capitals, that bit. Well, Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's director of national intelligence, pointed out 3 months ago, the US intelligence assessment is that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Let's hear what Trump had to say to that.
But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one.
I don't care what she said was what he said about his own director of national intelligence. The truth is, Donald Trump's claims to be the peace candidate were always lies. That's not to let the Democrats off the hook for their crimes. It's to speak the truth about Trump and those who he duped. These Trump allies are far from alone. Another one is the far-right Republican representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
From Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Congresswoman Greene, you have been a voice of reason and America First policy. Tell us how you see this conflict between Israel and Iran.
Matt, I see it just as you do, and you laid that out so well. That's the America First message, but it's also the truth that the American people have woken up to. We've watched for decades propaganda news. I'll call out Fox News and the New York Post. They're known to be the neocon network news. We have propaganda news on our side, just like the left does. And the American people have been brainwashed into believing that America has to engage in these foreign wars in order for us to survive. And it's absolutely not true.
Look, let's be clear. We are not on the side of these people. These are awful people, by the way. They don't oppose these wars because they're opposed to innocent people suffering horrible violence or because they regard wars of aggression as outrageous injustices. They just reduce everything to what they see as crude US self-interest, which is why should the US care about these foreigners and these foreign problems? You can hear that fleshed out by Steve Bannon, the former chief strategist to Donald Trump.
Israel is a sovereign nation. I'm a big supporter of Israel, big supporter of Israeli nationalism. It's a sovereign nation. It has to make decisions that are right for it, as it should, as all nations on earth should do. But when you start making decisions that are predicated upon the assumption that America is going to come in, not just for defense, but for offense, because the same crowded fox all weekend has been sounding the war toxins. America's got to go on offense. We have to go on offense. We have to support. We've got the equipment. We've got the pilots. We have the refueling. We have to help them take out Fodor, the second and the most, the one that's more secure in the mountainside. We have to be there. No, we have to make decisions that put America first. This has to be thought through. This Pearl Harbor type attack on the mullahs is fine for Israel, but is right for the United States when we have 10 million illegal alien invaders just on Biden's watch in the United States, particularly in our major cities, which President Trump comes out last night and says we're going to double and triple down to get them out. That's the war we face.
It's basically an everyone for themselves mentality. I believe that the US client states should stand on their own 2 feet. Another example is Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, who joined forces with the Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna to prohibit US involvement in the Israel-Iran war. He added, "This is not our war. Even if it were, Congress must decide such matters according to our Constitution." You can see why they're worried, with the vast majority of the US public opposed to the US military getting involved. The latest YouGov poll found that 60% of Americans oppose US military involvement in Iran, with just 16% in support. Among Trump voters, 53% opposed, just 19% in support. Perhaps that's because they remember the last time they were browbeat in supporting all these other wars, which they were told would make the US safer and bring peace and democracy, when they actually led to thousands of US troops being killed alongside the mass slaughter of Arabs and Afghans, the rise of violent extremism, sectarian warfare, the mass displacement of people, and general hideous chaos. Indeed, it seems today I am favourably quoting people I've no political sympathy for, and next up is Emmanuel Macron, the president of France.
We did not see collectively the consequences it had in the region elsewhere. Does anyone think that what was done in 2003 in Iraq was a good idea? Does anyone think that what was done in Libya the previous decade was a good idea? No. I also think of our friends in the region, in Iraq, in Lebanon, and elsewhere. We must help them reduce all those who indeed threaten their security, but they need everything except chaos. And so, on this, France's position is clear, it is unchanged, and I reaffirm it with great strength.
As he said there, does anyone think what was done in Iraq in 2003 was a good idea, or what was done in Libya in the past decade? No, the countries in the region do not need a new wave of chaos. Well, he's right, isn't he? The boy's right. The boy. He's much older than me. But I mean, it's correct. The fact is that the US is already up to its neck in this war of aggression, in defiance of the will of its own people. Donald Trump said, we now have total and complete control over the skies of Iran. We? What does he mean by we here exactly? Well, it's rather obvious, isn't it? Yet with polling also showing overwhelming UK opposition to participating in Israel's war of aggression, the UK government has announced it's sending military assets to the region and is refusing to rule out intervening in support of Israel. This particular scene in that context is very symbolic indeed.
The UK, and we just signed a document. This is, sorry about that. This is it. A very important document. A little windy out here. Give me that.
Keir Starmer there, the British Prime Minister, quite literally scrambling on his hands and knees for Donald Trump. But this from the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is deeply revealing.
Das ist die Drecksarbeit, die Israel macht für uns alle.
Israel is doing the dirty work for all of us, he says. This is Germany officially supporting Israel's war of aggression, an illegal war, as Germany continues its long and gruesome history of hideous, violent obscenities. Nonetheless, this is a confession. Israel's crimes are indeed the crimes of the West. It is Western states who must be held accountable. That brings us to the truly beyond hideous, I don't know what the right word is for this man who's going to end up in prison, the Israeli-British propagandist Ian Levy, who was spokesperson for Benjamin Netanyahu before he was sacked. Imagine that. Imagine being some dweeb who was sacked by Benjamin Netanyahu and then just carrying on this propaganda for a genocidal state. He posts a picture of the Middle East highlighting the much smaller Israel versus the much bigger Iran, posting since 1967 there has never been a clearer example of David versus Goliath. Leave aside, Iran was actually an ally of Israel between 1967 and 1979. Israel is a nuclear-armed power which has the total support of the United States, which, as you probably know, is the world's only superpower. It might be spiraling out of in decline, but it is still the only superpower, as well as other Western states who have armed it to the teeth. It's got nuclear weapons, which it is covering up illegally. And while this illegal war of aggression against Iran has launched, the horrors, of course, against the Palestinian people in Gaza are only escalating, and they're trying to distract us from that. Pressure was mounting on Israel, and all of a sudden, convenient. Let me quote this from Mai Alawawada, a spokesperson for medical aid for Palestinians, who's based in southern Gaza. The situation in Gaza is deteriorating rapidly. It is worse than ever, and it is all now happening in the dark, not just because of the world being concerned with the Israeli-Iranian conflict, but also literally as over the past few days, Gaza has been under complete communication blackout. We were cut off from the outside world, unable to speak, unable to be heard. Yesterday morning, the Israeli army targeted hundreds of Palestinians gathered in Khan Yunis, waiting for humanitarian aid amid the prolonged starvation. More than 60 people were killed, hundreds were injured, and there were around 400 casualties in just a few hours. Ambulances rushed to bring the wounded to Nasser Hospital, which is now operating far beyond its capacity. Its emergency department is overwhelmed, the morgue is full. The dead are being placed outside on the ground. People lie injured on the floors of hospital corridors. There aren't enough staff, supplies, or space to cope with this disaster. One of the great crimes of our age, facilitated by Western states. It's clear that Western leaders and Western media outlets will let Israel get away with any crime, no matter how extreme, no matter how depraved. We're not going to do that here. I can promise you that. Please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts in your comments. Help us take on the pro-genocide media, pro-war media, as we reach millions of people across each different platform. On Instagram alone, thanks to you, 40 million views in the last 4 weeks. But across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all the rest, Blue Sky, Threads, that's all thanks to you. We're reaching millions of people. And the whole point is to politicize people, to get people to fight back. And we're going to need a lot of that in the coming months and years. So yeah, share the video, like, subscribe, leave your comments, listen to us on the podcast. Speak to you soon.